everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Reviewia Talks. And today we have Mr. Mayank Rastogi with us. Mayank, hi. Thanks for taking out time for this episode.
Hi, Rijit. Thank you for inviting me. Quite excited.
Great. So, Mayank, we'll start by giving a brief introduction of yours to our viewers. So, folks, I know Mayank for many, many years. And, he's, apart from being a very good friend, he is a very, very seasoned product management professional. Mayank comes with more than 14 years of work experience, in the product management space. And he's worked across various industries, for examples, avionics, e-commerce, strategy consulting. He's worked across marquee organizations, across these industry sectors, namely Edgeworth, which is a company owned by Infosys. He's worked with Rockwell Collins, which is a market leader in aviation and related technologies. And currently, Mayank works with the Boston Consulting Group. And he spent a lot of time, working with global organizations across geographies. In fact, almost 50% of his professional work experience has been, in the United States, where he has worked with these global companies on various product-related assignments. By qualification, Mayank is a master's from the University of Central Florida, and he is also a management graduate from XLRI Jamshedpur. So Mayank, as I said earlier, we are very, very excited to have you be our guest on Reviewia Talks today. And with you, we are kind of giving this series a little bit of a spin. We were earlier, inviting guests to talk specifically about candidate experience. However, to add more value to our viewers, we understand that our viewers would be very keen to get some pointers, some suggestions about specific areas where they might be aspiring to build themselves as professionals. Sure. And nowadays, one very, very popular stream is product management. So I'm sure that your inputs would be very valuable for individuals who are looking to build a career in the product management space. So we'll straight away dive into a set of questions, and I would like to hear your views on them. So first of all, Mayank, it'll be good to hear from you on your journey on how did you land up being a product management professional? Did you plan for it, or did it happen by accident? So why don't you share a little about that?
Sure. So see, I would say at the start of my career, I definitely did not plan for it. As almost everybody when they're straight out of college, they're not really sure what they want to do. It was almost the same thing for me. All I knew was that I wanted to work in some kind of a field where I'm building something. So I'd done my master's, as you said, from University of Central Florida. And during that time, when I was doing my thesis research and I was, working with a professor of mine. So at that point, I got excited with the whole prospect of building things, or the whole prospect of, working on things that are, tangible, which I can actually sort of see, which I can feel. I mean, if not in the physical sense, but at least, even in the digital sense for that matter. So that was the driving force, and that is how I landed up a job in avionics. And then, as my career progressed there, so I started in the systems team in Rockwell Collins. Systems for our viewers, essentially it is in the IT world, what we call a business analyst is what in the whole sort of hardware software world is sort of the role of a systems engineer. So I started from there, and as I grew along, I sort of got more and more interested in the whole space of product management, and mainly because it is something that actually keeps you glued to the technology, but also keeps you very, very close to the business. So it's a perfect integration between the business side and the technology side. you get to interact with the users, you get to see how your product is actually being used by the users, and how whatever you're developing, how beneficial it is to the user. So it was a quite an exciting thing. Plus it has a little bit of a business sense as well. You need to be sort of have a good grasp of how your business of the product is doing, and so it's a whole range of skills that you need to have. So that just got excited, that just excited me, and I kept pursuing further and further options in the same field.
Okay, great. Uh, so my next question is, Mayank, according to you, what are the
Mhm.
top 3 or 4 skills which are required for someone to be a good product manager?
Okay. See, actually, before I answer that, I think it would be good to sort of try try to explain what a product manager is or what a product manager does, right? Uh, and unfortunately, there is no one definition of a product manager. So, as a product manager, as a role, we are responsible for everything starting from business strategy, product strategy, creating a business plan, figuring out the revenue of the product, pricing, uh, the development, design, delivery, everything, right? Marketing, everything. You're accountable and responsible for everything. So in a way, if I have to call it, it is a CEO of a product, obviously without the cool title, and without having the authority, because usually product manager is an IC role. You don't have a lot of people who are directly under you. You sort of have cross-functional leadership of the team. So in that sense, it is a CEO with a difference, but at the same time, it is also a janitor, because that this role is actually responsible for making sure that the last leg is also sort of works fine. So it's the whole spectrum of the product that the as a PM you're responsible for. So with that, you can sort of imagine the kind of skills that would be needed for this kind of a role. But even to that, I think it is also dependent on where you, or what kind of company you're working in. So in a lot of organizations where it's a startup, or it's a smaller organization, or it is building the whole product management function up, there the product manager will be responsible for everything, all these functions. uh, and in a lot of the established organization, like if you go to a Microsoft, Adobe, or Google of the world, there every of these functions, like marketing and delivery, and all of these functions, there will be functional heads, but the PM will still be ultimately accountable for the product success. So depending on where you're working, your skills can sort of change. But if I have to say that, what are the top sort of intersecting skills that a PM should have, irrespective of what kind of role that he's playing, or in which kind of organization he or she is in, then I would say, to begin with, it would be uh, stakeholder management. So the softer side, because you have to deal with a lot of people. So you need to have stakeholder management, you need to have negotiation skills, you need to have communication skills. And communication is actually both written and verbal. Written because you ultimately need to write a lot of requirement documents, and you need to write a lot of sort of product success stories and all those things. So you need to have a good grasp of how you're communicating a point. uh, then I think the other aspect is the analytical skills. And when I say analytical skills, it's not necessarily just the technical analytical skills, but the analytical skills where you're able to sort of figure out the where what the data is telling you, but also make business sense out of it. So you need to have a good business sense as well. And I would say the third most critical skill would be having a user or a customer centric attitude, or the focus towards the user or the customer, because product manager ultimately is the voice of the user. So you need to make sure that you, whatever you do it keeping the user of the product in mind. So that is, extremely important from my, based on my experience.
Great. I love the analogy of the product manager being a CEO as well as a janitor. So I think that kind of says that no matter which organization you are, you got to be fairly hands-on, when it comes to
Exactly.
donning the hat of a product manager. Great. I think that was a great response from you. I'm sure our viewers would have some good takeaways from this response of yours. My next question is just an expansion on that. What would be, so as I said, product management is one of the hottest careers today. Maybe possibly along with data science, it's the number one career when it comes to people aspiring to be a product manager. So, what would be your key message to these young folks who are straight out of college, looking to build a career as a product manager? What would be your key message to them?
Hmm. Hmm. I think what I would uh, recommend is, see, obviously there is no one path, right? I can only talk about it from my own experience. But my recommendation would be for them to first do an introspection of what they're really, what their skills are, what really excites them. Because as I said, this is a role where you deal with a lot of people. So, you need to be a people person. You need to sort of be in a position where you don't have a lot of authority on them, but you still need to get the work done. And that's a special skill. And, you need to sort of know that, yes, you have that skill and you can talk to people, and, you have that ability. uh, Second, I think for them to also sort of do an introspection and see how good are they dealing with ambiguity. Right? There are people who sort of want everything to be very structured. They want to make sure that, okay, they do things in a very process and in a very structured manner. I'm not saying that product management as a function is not very structured, but I think there is lots and lots of ambiguity that you have to deal with, because you really don't know where the solution will come from. You really don't know where the next problem will come from. uh, and it's just the whole the atmosphere is set in such a way that you have to be okay with that. If there are times in my actually my entire week, sometimes whatever I would have planned for my week, there are times when I've not even done 1% of that, and there are new pressing issues that have come up, and I've just been focusing on that. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be enjoying that process. So that is number two. And I think three, what I would say is, for them, for people to sort of get a good grasp of business. So what I have seen, at least in my experience, what differentiate a good and a great product manager is if they are able to associate what is happening in a product, but also link it with the business perspective and the business benefits. Because sometimes what a lot of us do is we keep focusing on a problem. Let's say if I say that the goal of my product is to add new user, or let's say goal of my KPI for next 3 months is add new users. I mean, that is ultimately what I want to do, but I also need to understand what business benefits am I getting out of it, and how exactly does this drive my product in the right direction. And if I know that, then I think some of the decisions that I would take in order to build my product and in order to sort of position it, they might be different. So yeah, I would say those are some of the skills that people need to take. Otherwise, I think it is it is something which is exciting, and it is something which, if people get into it, and if they have the passion, they can definitely uh, be quite successful.
Great. Thanks so much, ma'am, for those key takeaways, key suggestions for the aspiring product managers. With this, we pretty much come to the end of our discussion. By design, we keep it bite-sized and we don't do a long conversation, so that our viewers are able to absorb and digest whatever our guests messages are. But nonetheless, I think while it was short and sweet, it was very, very impactful. Thanks again for taking out time. It was lovely to have you as our guest in this episode. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Arijit. Pleasure was
Thank
was
you.
all mine. Thank you.
Bye-bye.